Welcome to 252 News. I am your host, Meredith. Today we are talking with Rachel, a first responder for the Outer Banks Marine Mammal Stranding Network. She's on the beach in Nags Head ready to answer some questions for us. Hi Rachel, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Meredith. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have a couple questions for you about marine mammal strandings. First, why do marine mammals strand?
So marine mammals strand on the beach when they're either sick or injured, things like dolphins and whales. We also get seal pups that come here in the winter and spring, and they'll haul out on the beach when they're tired from traveling and hunting when they want to take a rest.
Oh wow, so dolphins, whales, and seals all strand pretty often.
We do get a lot of marine mammals that strand here on the Outer Banks. We get more than most of the East Coast, and that is because of where we're located. So if you look at a map of North Carolina, you'll notice that the Outer Banks is like a little strip of sand that's pretty far east off of the coast. And right here off of the Cape Hatteras, we have two different currents that meet. So we have the Gulf Stream, which brings warm water from the south and brings all those warm water animals. And then we have the Labrador Current, which brings cold water from the north and brings all those cold water species. So we have many different types of species all meeting in one spot.
So are you seeing these strandings happening all year long? And what other types of animals might you see?
We do get strandings all year, however, most of our strandings are in the winter and the spring. During the summer and the warmer months, we don't get as many. But our most common species is going to be the bottlenose dolphin, and that's because we have species that travel here during the colder months, but we also have some that live here year-round. Other types of species that we get are humpback whales, we get pygmy and dwarf sperm whales, harbor porpoises, gray seals, and harbor seals.
That's a lot of species, definitely more than I expected. So what's the most unique or rare one you've seen?
We do have some species that only strand once a year or even less than that. We get things like Atlantic spotted dolphins, minke whales, and pilot whales. I think one of the most interesting species is the kogia, or the pygmy and dwarf sperm whales. They're really interesting because a lot of times they get mistaken for sharks because they have a marking on the side that looks like a gill slit. They also live pretty far offshore, and they can dive up to 1,000 feet, and they eat things like squid. So when they are excited or scared, they will shoot out an ink-like liquid, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's so cool. So if I see one of these mammals on the beach, what should I do?
The first thing you're going to want to do is give us a call on our hotline number. That's located on our website. It's good to make sure that you give us as much information as you can. A very specific location is good, as well as what type of animal it is and if it's alive or not. This way we're going to have as much information as possible when we arrive on scene.
Now, should I ever try to push one of these animals back into the water?
We advise that you don't push the animal back in the water. This is for the safety of you as well as the animal. It can be a little bit dangerous to be around these bigger animals in the water. Also, the animal's stranded for a reason, and we want to try to figure out what that is, so pushing it back in is not a good idea.
What will you do with the animal when you arrive?
So it depends on the situation. If the animal is alive still, we're going to try to get it a little bit further up on the beach and get it into a comfortable position so we can assess it further. We're going to monitor its behavior and call our vets to see what our next step will be. If it's not alive anymore, we're going to try to get as much information from it as possible, so we're going to check its species, location, length, and sex.
Do you think you could demonstrate for us what you would do when you arrive on the scene?
Of course. Because we don't have actual animals, I'm going to be using some plushes, so I'm going to go grab them and bring them over here. I'm going to want to do is make sure that I get my location exactly, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go on my Maps app, put in a point, swipe up, and it's going to give me the longitude and latitude. This is really important so that when we record our data, we know exactly where each animal was. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see what type of animal it is. So because we have plushes, it's not going to be quite as accurate. However, when you do come on scene, you can check the teeth and it will tell you if it's a bottlenose dolphin or not. We know this because our bottlenose dolphins have bigger, more knobbier teeth than our other dolphin species. So we're going to say that this one is a bottlenose. Now I'm going to try to figure out if it's a male or a female. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip it onto its side, and we're going to look ventrally, that's its belly side, and we're going to look for the markings on the bottom. So on a female, it's going to have one long slit and then two smaller slits next to it. On our male, it's going to have one slit and then a space and then another slit. So we have a female and a male here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take a measurement. So I'm going to take my measuring tape and I want to measure from a very specific location. In science, we always use the metric system, so we're going to be using centimeters. And we're going to measure from the tip of the mouth to the notch in the tail. And we're going to get a nice straight length because we want to see what size its skeleton is. So I have a dolphin that is approximately 67 centimeters long. The last thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to take a lot of photos. It's really important that you have lots of photos of your animal for future reference. Now before I go, I'm going to fill out some forms, and one of those forms is going to be a human interaction form. So I'm going to take a huge look at my animal at every single area on its body to see if there's any evidence of human interaction.
Now, what exactly do you mean by human interaction? Are these animals often negatively impacted by humans?
Sometimes we get stranding cases where there is evidence that they have come in contact with humans. This is normally through fishery interaction or vessel strikes. So things that we're going to be looking for are line impressions from either fishing line or netting, or they will have some sort of bruising.
Are there other things that affect these animal strandings?
One of the things that can also affect these strandings is the water temperature. This is why we don't see as many strandings during the summer, because the water is a little bit warmer, so we don't have as many species that are coming our way. This has changed a lot this season, especially because normally the water's a little bit colder than it is right now. So normally we will have lots of harbor porpoises, usually in February, and we didn't have any this year. By this time also we usually have a lot of seal pups, and we haven't had very many, so it's definitely unusual.
Well, there are definitely so many interesting things about these animals. Thank you for being here with us today and sharing your information.
Thank you so much for having me. Make sure if you see an animal, give us a call.
Thanks for watching 252 News. We hope you have a great day.